All right, everybody, can I get a drum roll, please? Ladies, are you an entrepreneur that is overwhelmed? You need to get out of one-to-one and hours for dollars. Has your messaging become boring or vanilla? Do you need to build a team? Do you need to have a more clear message to start up-leveling your game and attracting the right clients? Let's get honest. Do you need to get your shit together with your systems and your structure? Do you need to go from a solopreneur to an entrepreneur and hire a team and have help? Do you need to boss up? Do you need to quit treating your business like a hobby, for gosh sakes? Do you want to learn how to make a passive and leveraged income? And quite honestly, who wouldn't want this? But would you like to make more money and work less? If the answer to any of those was hell yes, then you need to get your butt to the once a year Front Seat Life event. It is streamlined, up-leveled, less hoopla, more connection, and it is in the gorgeous downtown Seattle in beautiful September here in Seattle at the Sheraton Grand, September 19th, 20th, and 21st. Thursday night, we're having a party. Friday, I am going to just give every single bit of content to you. No fluff, no bullshit, no hoopla. Just all amazing content and connection and just high level. And then Saturday, we will meet for a half a day. You get to connect with high-level entrepreneurs. You get to be where the action is at. So you might meet somebody in that room that is going to change your life. Get your butt there. Tickets are ridiculously inexpensive. Grab a friend. Get yourself here. The room rates are fantastic. You are not going to regret this. I know what you're thinking. I may not be qualified. I don't need this. Let me tell you, 1 year from now, you're going to be in the exact same stuck spot in your job if you don't make this decision now. It is affordable. It's enough days for you to get away. Tell your spouse, tell whoever's in your life, I am going to go do this for myself so that I can finally start taking my business seriously. That's it, friends. Get yourself there. The link to come join us in Seattle is in the show notes, or go over to jessicabutts.com. A pop-up will pop up. It will be the simplest thing you've ever done. There's no digging. You don't have to find it. Go to jessicabutts.com, get yourself enrolled. And I cannot wait to hug you and see you and talk directly to you. It's a small, intimate group, and we will be able to connect, and it will be the best decision you've made in your business in a very, very, very long time, or ever. See you there. Everybody, welcome Front Seat Lifers. Welcome back. We are on the last episode of this 8-week series that I have been doing for all the girl bosses. I have learned from Stu McLaren, the tribe, that you really need to have a success path for the people that you are working with. And it has been really, I have to say, quite a joy and a delight for my team and I to put together a success path for the community that I work with, which is on personal development and life skills, if you will. And then the girl boss for those just starting out and what you need to do to get your business up and running. And then also the lady bosses. And what does that look like for people that are leveraging their business and already have a full business? And you are certainly one of those people. So my guest today is the beautiful, talented, sweet, kind, badass Sherry Gazit. So welcome.
Thank you. Glad to be here.
Thank you for coming. And I wanted to have you on, as I'm going through all of these weeks, I am sharing my client avatar, if you will. The person that I think that I have been working with for a couple of years represents this category the best. So we are on again week 8, and today is really about what I'm calling the long game. This is going from treating your business like a hobby to getting into CEO mentality, learning how to make money, learning how to up-level your offerings, learning how to communicate with your clients, having a team, all of those things that really takes it from this kind of reactive stance to stepping into treating your business like a business and not just a hobby. And Sherry, you are my kind of shining example of this. So no pressure, but I hope that you have lots of wonderful tidbits for the listeners today. Yeah. So why don't you jump in and start us off by telling us about your really, really, really awesome, incredible business. And ladies and gentlemen listening right now, you're going to want to hear this.
Okay, so my business is TeenWise, and I've started, I don't even know when I started this, Jessica, maybe 2006, around there. And it's all about helping parents and teens navigate the really tricky and just volatile time of adolescence, which starts, around 9 really, and then goes until about 25.
Oh my God.
Yeah. The brains aren't fully developed until 25. So, so I'm really trying to get in there and help support parents and teens before they get to clinical anxiety or depression, because a lot of focus I see is on what are the warning signs. And I don't want to get to that space. I want kids to get the help before they get there. Yeah. And parents.
Yeah. And I was going to say, a lot of the work that you have recently done has been also focusing on the teens, of course, but also focusing on the parents.
For sure.
And identifying these, sorry, helicopter parents, but the helicopter parents. And if you don't know if you're one of those, you might be one of those. But and this is why we work so well together, about letting your children be unapologetically who they are, and that we're not all well-rounded, and that, kind of the don't do stuff you suck at mentality. Like, your kids are not going to be good at everything. If you've got a super creative, artsy-fartsy, awesome kid, they're not also going to be super great at math and science. And if they're really awesome at math and science, they may or may not be, the athlete that you are hoping they are or something. So it's about accepting who they are, correct?
Well, and there's also another level to that maybe they have potential to do something, but they've got no passion for it. They don't want to do it, but their parents are like, but you need to, because it might get you into college if you continue to do this. And the kids are like, but I hate it. I don't want to do it. And they're like, well, you just need to stick with it. So,
wow. Okay. So that's like a whole nother topic. And I actually, as you're saying this, I realized that I think I need to have you back before school starts to do an episode about exactly this, about allowing your kids to be who they are. Okay. So let's stick to what today's topic is, because we could talk about a million things, I think, today. In fact, when she got to my house, we were like, let's talk about Greece. You just got back from Greece, and I'm about to go to Greece. And so we're like, pause, let's focus. Okay.
Let me talk about that for 1 second. I went to Greece with my entire family. My kids are now 15, 19, and 21. So the 2 older ones are in college. So we haven't been together as a family unit in a long time, like for 2 full weeks. And my 21-year-old is day 7 said, okay, this is the day where we all hate each other, and then we get over it. So that's what happened.
Oh, beautiful.
The 7th day was like, oh my gosh, I need my space, and then we're all good.
Okay, wow, that makes me happy to hear that. I do the same thing with my mom, so I totally get it. Okay, good. All right, so let's start by talking about the trajectory of your business. So you just said started in 2006. You are now into 2019. So share with the listeners, because this is really what it's about. It's about them being able to hear themselves in you. What has it been like for you to take this from an idea, a concept, to go through all of these steps? And you and I have been working together for a couple of years, and you're also a diligent learner. You are looking at other coaches and going to conferences, and really, I think that's one of the things I like most about you, is that you're an astute learner and you know where you're deficient and where you shine and where to look into things. So tell us about what this journey has been like for you, so that everybody else can see themselves in you.
Right. So let me start from the beginning of how I even started this. It was kind of a moment of what do I do now? Because I was in a job working for the Women's Sports Foundation, and the funding ran out, and I said, well, I love this space. I love what I'm doing. I've got to work with this population, but I wasn't willing to go to a job where there was no creativity and there was no empowerment and like social work. I mean, the people who are doing social work are so burnt out because they don't have a lot of control over the difficult situations.
Totally.
So I was not going there.
Yep.
So I started just getting calls saying, I know you're not in that position anymore, but can you come talk to our girls? Can you come talk to the parents? And I was like, okay, I better start a company because I need to be like part of something. So I kind of just started this without the business plan, without the idea of what I was going to do with it. Then I got into the coaching piece of it because people are like, can you talk to my daughter? Can you help us out more? And so it's been an interesting journey in that it wasn't a business where I started with a business plan. Like, this is what it's going to look like, which is how I kind of got into the hobbyist mentality of, oh, let's do that. Let's just do that. And let's see what happens and see where it takes me.
I have to say, I think this is probably where most people start is they have a passion. They see there's a need, and or people are asking them to do something. Isn't that how this starts?
Yeah.
Is someone's asking you to do something, or again, you have a passion for something, and you then kind of glide into something. And then this is where I think things get really interesting, is that you're a mother, and I'm just a busy human being, and I believe wholeheartedly in the fact that a hobby is taking away from time for your family. A job and a career is giving back to your family. So when you can make money, when you can provide some sort of, I don't know, even if it's just showing that you're being an entrepreneur and you're showing your girls and your family, like, this is what I'm doing with my life. Otherwise, it's just becomes this time suck and it's taking time away from them. But if you can contribute financially, you can contribute by showing, like, this is how I'm showing up in the world. You should be proud of your mom. I'm proud of myself. I think that's the differentiator for me between this hobby and really, really like contributing. And it's not all about the money, but it is about being able to not take time away from your family if you're not also contributing in a way that feels good for you.
Well, and the other difference I think between the hobby and CEO mentality is if it's a hobby, it's not important. Like if you're looking at your priorities in life, it's like, oh, that's more important because this is just a hobby. Like you said, not contributing to the family necessarily. So I think that's a big difference for me is, even though I'm not making thousands and thousands of dollars yet, it's not a hobby anymore. And I do have to carve out time for it. And my kids are starting to learn that too.
Welcome to the Front Seat Life podcast. This is Jessica Butts, your host and CEO and creator of Front Seat Life, where I help you be unapologetically who you are in your life, love, and business. What a beautiful differentiator, because you're right, it isn't always about the money. And I do talk a lot about money because as a single woman with no children, like, I am the sole provider of myself, but also this business that I'm running, and I have employees now, and I got shit to pay.
Right.
But it isn't all about the money. It is about passion. It is about giving back. But I think what you just said too is something that I love to talk about are rocks.
Yeah.
And sometimes hobbies aren't necessarily rocks in our lives. And for you, the rocks in your life are you, obviously your children, your wonderful husband, and your business, and being really passionate about that. And when we're setting boundaries around our time and our energy, our business gets to feel much more like a rock and something that's important versus this hobby.
Well, and also a hobby, just the name of it, that's taking money from your family, is the way I see a hobby. And I invested, when I started, $5,000 in my business, and I've never dipped out of my personal again from that.
Wow.
It was a great timing because my husband had quit his job and said, I want to do a startup. And I said, well, if you get money for your startup, I get money for mine.
Good girl.
And so we both took our $5,000, and I like to make fun of him because he didn't continue his, but mine's still going.
Oh, high five. I love that. That's so good. That's so good. Okay, so you started this. It was kind of this, again, realizing like, I want to turn this into something. I started speaking for free. I'm guessing people started to ask you to do something. You were passionate about it. You didn't really know what was next. So what came next in terms of like, oh, wow, I might actually have something here and I probably need to get my shit together and build something.
I can't honestly answer that. Oh, it just kind of kept turning along. And
this is great.
I started doing some webinars online. Oh, I can do this, I can do that. And in the past, 13 years or whatever, a lot has changed with social media and how we use the internet for businesses. So I just kind of kept churning. And then at some point I was like, okay, I got to get focused. I mean, you were part of that. And that was how many years ago? 2 years ago.
Yeah, I was going to say that's a lot of years. Long time. Okay.
Right. So it wasn't until I started working with you that I was like, okay, I really got to start taking this a little more seriously and have a plan, because I'm definitely the throw the spaghetti on the wall and see what happens.
Yes.
And stuff works, stuff doesn't work. And this long-term idea is something I'm just starting to grasp.
Okay. So I'm going to put you on the spot a little bit and ask, and I don't prep anybody that comes on the show, by the way. They get here, they come to my home. I tell them like in 3 minutes what we're going to talk about. And so this is, I thank you for doing this, but I also always want it to be super spontaneous. Mm-hmm. So tell me, you just mentioned, hiring me, getting a coach. Mm-hmm. What are some of the other things that shifted this for you from this kind of willy-nilly throwing spaghetti on a wall? And I like to consider a hobby a little bit like throwing spaghetti on a wall. And for those of you listening right now, if you don't know what that means, just imagine what that is. There's no plan.
Yep.
There's no long-term vision. There's no longevity. In fact, I was just meeting with one of your fellow lady bosses yesterday. We had a very lovely session here. And she was like, I think I want to do an event in 2 months. Like a real event.
That's
and I was like, might I add an alternative thought? And I just said, why don't you do it in March of next year? And it's July right now. For those of you listening, this won't air till September. Why don't you wait until March? And here's why. And so I started like laying all of this out, and I could literally see her taking deep breaths, and her shoulders were going down, and there was this sense of calm, because I said, here's what we can do in the meantime. I can teach you about an effective launch. We can build your audience. You can keep getting these one-on-one clients. You can build this Facebook community. You can do some Facebook Lives. You can continue to give this great content. And I just said, this is a long-term business strategy versus, holy shit, I'm going to do this thing, and I'm going to do this now, and I'm going to throw the spaghetti on the wall, and I'm going to go try to find a thing, and I'm going to really try to fill it. And it's just this chaotic, frenetic energy in a way.
Anxiety inducing, for sure.
Totally anxiety inducing. So what for you, Sherry, has been kind of the change from throwing spaghetti on a wall to like taking a deep breath of like, if I'm going to do this for the next 15, 20, 30 years, however long, what are some of the things that you have introduced into your business and life?
I think this long-term thinking has changed a lot of stuff that I do, because I don't feel like I need to do it all right now. And I don't know who your client was you're talking to, but my guess is she was like, I have to do this now. If it doesn't get done now, it won't get done.
Yep.
And so when all of a sudden you have this idea and you're like, I got to do it now, that's so much anxiety and so much doubt also under that, because you're like, can I get it done in 2 months?
Yes.
And can I get it done right? Can I get people there? So there's no launch plan because you don't have time for it. You've got to get the details done.
Yeah.
So for me, the long-term thinking has really changed the way I look at my business, because it's not about here and now, what am I going to do? It's about what am I doing now that's going to lead to that next thing that I want to do.
So good.
But I don't have to do it right now.
Yeah. So what else have you added in? So hiring a coach, that was me, obviously. So that has been helpful for you.
Yes, definitely.
How has a mastermind, for example, been a part of that for you?
Well, having a business and being a solo entrepreneur is, you don't have those people around you to like lift you up, to tell you, no, that's not going to work. Like you did with your client. Whoa, hold the horses, you know. You're able to throw your ideas out there and people can give you honest feedback.
Yep.
I think the honest feedback is important, because when you throw it out to your family, they're like, oh, that's great. That sounds wonderful. Everybody's going to love it. And you're like, okay, but let's get real.
Yeah.
Is it really going to work from a business standpoint?
And they're typically not your ideal clients either. Yeah. And so they're like giving you feedback and you're like, you're not even like my ideal client. So how helpful is this? Okay. Right. So on the mastermind note, I want to say, two things, and then if there's anything else that comes up for you that's been helpful but for one, I think this short-term mentality of, again, this hobby mentality to me, or short-term mentality, is you're also setting yourself up to fail. And so when I try to do this with my clients, and hopefully I do a good job, is that there is the long-term vision. So I help people kind of think 5 years out or 10 years out or even 20 years out. And then it's like backtracking it. So what are we going to do this year? Mm-hmm. What are we going to do this quarter? As you know, I'm obsessed with 90-day goals. Right. What am I going to do this quarter? What am I going to do this week? What am I going to do today? And that kind of in the moment, but also long-term strategy, I believe is the differentiator between a failing hobby business and a long-term successful business, is taking a breath sometimes. Just take a breath and realize, do I need to do this right now? Because what we end up doing is we set ourselves up to fail. Mm-hmm. And then when we have failure after failure after failure, we fail. Mm-hmm. Because one, we think we can't do it, but then we also have like proven to ourselves, wow, we really suck at this and we can't do it. Right. And then the other thing is actually a little more funny is I will never forget, it was probably 2 or 3 years ago, before I had built such a community and had my own mastermind and all of this, is that I was in Bellevue, actually at Lincoln Square, and I saw this obviously work group getting ready to go to happy hour together. And I was standing there by myself, and I was like, I miss that. I used to work in corporate America, and that was probably the only thing I actually liked about it were work friends. And so that's part of why I've built these communities too, is why you guys have a mastermind, why I have my own mastermind, why I have the Front Seat Life community, why there's lady bosses. That is a huge part, do you not agree? Yeah. Of long-term business strategy. Mm-hmm. The long-term gain is having other people, being able to go to happy hour, being able to bounce things off of people, being able to have a Facebook community and go, I am losing my ever-loving mind today. Like, talk me off of a ledge. Yeah. Like, we need that, right?
Well, the small group's important because if you're in a community of 500 people, right, or 1,000 people from some of these Facebook groups for businesses, you're not going to really put your weaknesses out there too much, right? You need your smaller group that you trust and you know to put out that stuff. And a lot of business groups are just about, let me show you what I've succeeded in doing, not here's where I'm struggling. So I think that's one thing that's important, to have that support when you're doing your own business so that you can be real and human in it, as well as, get that support.
Wow. That's just a really, really good point, because we do have to keep it real. Mm-hmm. I mean, I've said this for years, like being an entrepreneur is not for the faint of heart. No. It is hard stuff. When you got here, my assistant was just leaving, like we're transitioning. I'm in sweats. I mean, it's a never ending process. And we do have to get really, really honest with people that this is not easy. Like I always joke that I think all entrepreneurs have the job that they dream of, that's the mindless job. Mine is a grocery bag checker.
That's what mine is too.
Shut up!
It is. When I go to the grocery store, I'm like, I'll bag that.
Oh my, I can't believe it. I've never met anybody else who has the same. Oh, it's totally my dream mindless job of like, those people don't go home and think about their job. They don't dream about like, oh, I got to be a better grocery bag checker. They go home and they leave their job at home. Yeah. I cannot even imagine that. Oh, that's so funny, Sherry.
I always thought I was weird, but
Okay, that's so funny. Okay, so again, putting you on the spot again, tell the listeners some of the things that you have done personally and in your business to get you to this new kind of mindset.
Mm-hmm. Well, one of the things is going back to my why. And my why is not just to spend time doing something. My why is to help teens and parents to get through adolescence intact and to get through it with some joy and to have a connection. So when I go back to that, I'm like, okay, I have to think long term and I have to think bigger. Like I could just be like, yeah, things are good now, I'll stay here. But there's a lot of teens and parents who need my help. And I have to step outside of myself and my ego and be like, all right, I have to do more. I can't read another story about a suicide and feel like I'm not doing enough, or another story about anxiety on the rise or depression and just be like, well, I'm just doing my thing. I've got to do more. Wow. So that's one thing, is going back to the why. The other thing is allowing myself not to get sucked in with all of the things I should be doing. There's a lot of free webinars, right?
Yes, please.
Oh, you need to do this. You have to do that. You got to do that, And I sometimes get squirrely and I'm like, okay, I'm going to watch all these webinars. I'm like, I don't have time to do that right now. I don't have to do that. It would be great, but I'm not going to do it right now. Mm-hmm. So to be able to say no to myself, to not do those things. And then hiring more people. So I just hired a new coach. She's going to be coaching boys.
Awesome.
So I don't have to turn parents
in
away
your
to boys.
business, you've hired a coach.
Yes.
Yeah, that is amazing. Yeah. So you've hired an employee.
Yes, an associate coach.
Yes, please.
Yes, so super excited. And then I hired an assistant. Good. And then I have a graphic designer and I have an accountant. So I have people doing things that I could do, but I don't need to be doing.
Yes. So these are the things that we talk about zone of genius. Yeah. Don't do stuff that you suck at. Hiring a team to do things, because the reality is you are a mom of 3. You're a wife. You have a life. You're an introvert. And you are an entrepreneur. Yeah. So that's a lot of different compartments. And I believe having this long-term game, this vision of, running a business, the why, which you just mentioned, hiring a team, not having to do every single godforsaken thing at one time, absolutely is critical to this long-term success.
Well, and it's hard for me to do the long term because I just want to help. I want to help right now. One example of the long term is writing a book, which I'm working on now, right? Yes. So that to me has been hard to put into my schedule because I'm like, but that's so long term. I need to help people now. So I really had to stop and think of it in terms of my entire business, where that fits in. It's going to help me to get the bigger speaking gigs so I can help more people and talk to more parents and teens. And it'll just help people who are able to pick up the book and read it. And, you know, it's going to be a workbook so the parents can go through it and really think about their own life and parenting. And so, that's been one that's tough because that is long term.
Yeah. And this is a really beautiful conversation, and I'm literally like feeling my body like slow down a little bit because there's different levels of business. There is this girl boss stage where you start and you're like, I got to do everything at once. I need clients right now. Like there's a concept of now, money now. Yeah. I need money now to sustain this. And then you get to a place where you and I are, which is what's next? And you said it earlier, and I want to go back to it because it's such a powerful moment, I think, for all entrepreneurs of, I could stay where I'm at. And God bless you and I and all of the people doing one-to-one work, that we are making an impact one-to-one. But when you are so passionate about, there are teens that are killing themselves, there are parents that are really, really, really stressing out their children. There are kids that are these, mismatched, different, difficult, interesting, creative, wonky kids out there that need a different environment. You're passionate about all of these kinds of things. And that why and that desire to do more is so much more than about money. It's just not about the money. It's about the why and about making this long-term impact. And you're right. There's a lot of moments where I could go grocery bag check or I could just be done. But there is this desire to write a book. There's a desire to do one-to-many because you're passionate about that work. And that is the power of, I think, passion. And the power of it being a long-term game is that you want to get that message out there. And that is what Lady Bossing is. And that is what leveraging is about. That's what the Front Seat Life event is about. This year in particular, I've kind of done it girl boss content before. And this year we're really up-leveling it to this Lady Boss content because there is a huge need out there there's plenty of entrepreneurs that have gotten to that place of enough is enough. And I'm sure you've had this. I had this. My mom asked me this question and other people had asked me, like, why isn't a full therapy practice enough? And I remember thinking, I don't know why, but it's not.
Yeah.
And I'm not going to question that. I'm just going to go with whatever God's message is for me right now. God is giving me a message that you're supposed to do more. Because let's get real. Writing a book is not easy. I mean, I've written 2 of them, and I'm not going to lie, I hated both of it. I hated it. I hated the process. It's fucking hard. It's hard. And would I rather have not done that? Probably. But when you are given a message from God, or as Elizabeth Gilbert calls it in Big Magic, like it's just this butterfly that lands on you and you're given an idea, we intuitives, we entrepreneurs have, I think, a right to put it out into the world.
Yeah.
And that is what it takes to have patience, to have a sense of calm, to learn from people that have done it before you. Like, all I did was learn it from somebody, and now I'm teaching you. Like, this is the lineage of it. Now you'll probably teach others. But it's about all of these things. It's about passion. It's about the why. It's about the long term. It's about compartmentalization. It's about learning the tactics and the tools to then leverage. And whether that's a podcast or a video or a book or one-to-many or speaking, all of the different ways that we can do that. But I know the people listening right now, like, that is the thing for them, is that they want, I hope anyway, because I don't work with people that, you know, it's just about the money. Like, it's never just about the money. It's about wanting to make a difference.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I think the money is important in that you have to have it to be sustainable.
Totally.
Right? So that,
totally.
For me, like, the money, I go back to it because if I can make more money, I can help more people. I can have that money to, have other people, you know, help me out with creating new videos or doing the assistant work, whatever it is. That money allows me to be in my zone of genius.
Totally.
So it's not like, oh, I'm this money grabbing person, I need to make more and more. It's about, I need to help more people, so I've got to bring in that money so I can do that.
Yep. That's so funny that you say that. And I love these podcasts because it's like, it just goes wherever it goes. Like, this is totally not where we were going to go with this, but it's fantastic. So Stephanie, my director of operations, was just here, and we were having this conversation literally when you got here about each year of your business. When you have a long-term business plan, I think there's a theme of each year. So this year for Front Seat Life has absolutely been rebuilding, up-leveling, restructuring, learning new things, hiring coaches. It has been an investment year. I mean, when I get my numbers, it will be a highly, highly, highly investment year. And the purpose is, because what Stephanie and I were just talking about is that we already in July of this year are seeing what 2020 is bringing. And we were saying, okay, this is what's coming. We know this is where we need to go. This is the plan for next year, but we could not have, this is key. We could not have done what we already know we need to do for 2020 if this year hadn't happened, because what you are talking about is building the foundation. And nobody wants to hear this because I've been saying this for a while now. I don't know why this is my analogy, but everyone wants to go to Home Goods and buy the throw pillows. We don't want to build the foundation. We want to do all the fun shit. Look at all the fun, pretty shit, all the stuff I buy at Home Goods. I love that place. I love Wayfair. I love to buy all the stuff. But if I buy all this cute little trinkety stuff and I don't have a foundation, it doesn't matter. It's all going to fall into the mud and get rained on in Seattle. We have to be willing to build the foundation. And that, I believe wholeheartedly, and I think you would agree, is what it takes to have that long-term business strategy. So you are hiring an assistant coach. You are hiring a VA so that you know you can spend your time doing other things that are in your wheelhouse, that are in your zone of genius, in your front seat. And that is what it takes. So many people say, oh, I don't have the money to hire an assistant, or I don't have the money to build a really nice website or whatever. Well, you can't afford not to because it's going to fall apart.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, or you'll spend this amount of money and then have to redo it 6 months from now. So there's something to be said for starting out a little bit on the frugal side, maybe. But at the same time, you got to figure out where your money needs to go and how you're going to get that professional looking, whatever it is, you know, your website or your business card, and get that done, because it's representing who you are.
And we started this conversation by you talking about spending $5,000 on your business and really taking that money and investing in that. And I think there's something powerful about that, of not necessarily having to go into debt, or that's pretty lean. I mean, $5,000 to start something is pretty darn lean. Yep. And you're right, in the beginning. And this year, I mean, I will say too, this year is an investment year. And I think you go through cycles in your business of when you're investing more versus, cash cow kinds of years and the ebb and flow of that. But again, it's always this long-term strategy is I'm willing this year to invest a shitload of money in the business because I can see what it is going to bring in the future years. Yeah. But if that foundation is not there, you're just reactive.
Well, I think if you're not willing to invest in your business, really what it says is you don't believe in your business and you don't believe in yourself. Boom. Like you're like, I can't put that money in because next year I may not have my business, or I'm not going to do enough to bring in money to pay for that. You have to believe in your business in some level.
Dang, girl.
Right?
Dang, girl. That just triggered some listeners. It had to.
True.
You're absolutely right. That's really think about investing in yourself, or you don't have enough value because you're not investing in yourself and you don't believe your business is going to be here, so that I'm fearful. Yeah. I've told the story multiple times, but when I first started my business, I knew beyond a shadow of a doubt that it was going to be successful. I just knew it. I believe that God gives you like very clear visions of things in your life. And this was a very clear vision for me. And I think all the listeners too, and I'm sure it is for you as well, that I was willing to sacrifice a lot. I was willing to spend a lot of money. I was willing to restructure my life. I was willing to leave a marriage. I was willing to go back to graduate school, all of the things it took, go into debt to be committed, because exactly what you just said, I knew it was going to be I knew it. I knew that it was going to work, but it takes belief. It takes that mindset. It takes investing. I think it does take rearranging your life in a way, and also just being super, super committed.
Yeah. And I think there's also that thing, if you spend the money, you've got a commitment there, like you said. So
true.
Yeah, and you went in and you spent a crap load of money in the very beginning, right?
Yep.
So you had to hustle and make that worth it. So there's that psychological piece to it also. Or if you're playing small, I'm just going to do a $200 website. I'm just going to do, $12 business cards. Well, you don't have much skin in the game. So,
totally. And it also is what you attract.
Mm-hmm.
That's also, there's a saying like you dress for the job that you want.
Yeah.
I believe you set the business up that you think you're going to have. I had way more of a robust website early on than I ever needed, but I knew what the vision was. And so I thought, well, I might as well do it now. Mm-hmm. I remember investing in Infusionsoft when I had a list of, 2,000 or 3,000 people, like not very many people.
Mm-hmm.
Like it did not need to house Infusionsoft, but I was like, screw it. I'm going to spend, I think at the time, like $250 a month. I'm going to do this, even though it seems crazy, but I knew I'm going to need all of this bandwidth to be able to get there. So that's a very powerful statement. It's a very powerful statement. Because again, in the beginning, there is this sense of like, oh, I'm nervous. I don't want to do this. I don't know if this is going to succeed. And I don't know if you can speak to this. I'm putting you on the spot right now, Sherry. You have a wonderful spouse, but there's a lot of people who are not always supported at home, because when we may believe in ourselves, we may be met with, as I was in my marriage at the time, my husband was not, he was very much a naysayer. Any input or advice on that when you may not be supported by somebody?
If you're not supported by somebody, I think it's even more important to have that long-term plan.
Beautiful.
Like if you can go, if your husband is a good husband but not supportive in this arena, you can say, look, here is my plan. Stick with me. I'm going to invest this much. This is where I'm going to be next year. And here's what I need from you. But if you just go and you say, I'm going to try this thing. I need $10,000. I'm not sure what I'm going to use it for, especially if your husband and you are like having issues financially, that $10,000 can seem huge. So if you're not clear on this is why I'm going to use this money and where it's going and here's my plan, then I can see why you could have a spouse who'd be like, hold up, this sounds like it's not going anywhere and that's a lot of money.
Yep. Thank you for that. This may not be the best mentality in the world, but I am a firm believer in like proving my naysayers wrong.
Yeah.
I think it's just this little, I don't know what this is in me. It's just my girl bossy. Like, I'm going to fight you.
Like, watch me. Yeah.
Exactly. Watch me, bitch. Like, here I go. So I had, we all have naysayers. My spouse was a naysayer. I had naysayers when I became a therapist. So if you can't do this, no one's ever built a successful practice in less than 5 years, blah, blah, blah. Mm-hmm. And all I remember doing inside is being like, I don't believe you.
Yeah.
Like, why? You're putting me in a box. Like, if I work harder, if I work smarter, if I invest, if I hire the right coach, like if I am awesome at my craft, I don't believe that is true. Mm-hmm. And so there is such a part, I think, of all of the listeners, two things. Prove them wrong. And then make yourself proud. I actually just did a post on Instagram today about this. Like, prove them wrong and make yourself proud. And part of that is you have to be committed. Mm-hmm. You have to show your spouse. Like, if they're asking for stuff, don't balk at it. Do it. I had to do it and I hated it. It was very, very difficult. But I remember thinking, okay, I don't necessarily have the numbers, but what I can show you is commitment.
Yeah.
It means not sleeping in. I had no clients. Girl, I've told the story a gazillion times. I had one client that paid me $10 a week. I made $10 a week.
Oh my gosh.
My rent was $400. I was going $390 in the hole every month. That's not true. So $40 a week. So whatever. Very close. I got dressed every day. I got up. I took care of my body. I say this all the time. I went into the other room and I did visualization exercises and I meditated for years, for months. And I went to the office. I got dressed. I mean, I'm barely dressed today, but I got dressed, went to the office, and I sat there and I taught myself how to run a business because I had been taught how to become a therapist, but I didn't know how to run a business. And that was all I could do to prove to my spouse that I am committed. Right. I'm not going to lunches in the middle of the day. I'm not off shopping. I'm not sleeping in. I'm not farting around. Like, I am fully committed to this. And I believe you have to do that. Mm-hmm. If you want people to take you seriously, act serious. Yeah. Act serious. Because I will say, I see that sometimes, and I hate that I see that. Certainly not in the Lady Boss group, but sometimes with new entrepreneurs, they're like, us intuitives, I just want you to trust me, and I just want you to believe me. But we gotta back that up with some action. Like, find a business plan. Have somebody help you write it. Get serious about your money. Stop spending as much money and choose. You know what will prove to your spouse probably more than anything is when you put your money where your mouth is, and you will not either go on vacation, you will not buy the shoes, you will not, whatever your vice is, for me it was shopping, it probably still is, whatever your vice is, I will choose to not spend that money because I want to invest it back in my business. Mm-hmm. Boom.
Yeah.
Can you imagine your spouse watching you be like, yeah, I'm not going to buy that, or I'm not going to do that thing, or I'm not going to go to that lunch, or I'm not going to go on this girls trip, or I'm not going to do that ladies who lunch, or I'm not going to go to that dinner because I know it's going to cost $150 when we split the bill 5 ways or whatever. I'm going to choose to not do that because I would rather put that money back into my business. Listeners, that is putting your money where your mouth is.
Well, and it goes back to the long-term plan, right? That you're like, okay, I'm not going to do this now because I'm going to be able to do this next year, the year after that, whenever I want. I can go out to dinner. But it's that long-term. It's, again, thinking in that long-term.
I hope you guys are as fired up as I am right now. Like, I am fired up right now because that statement is just so powerful because I have to say, I had the vision of this life that I have right now then. Mm-hmm. I'll be honest, granted, I still work a ton, but I wanted to work less and make more money. Mm-hmm. I remember my coach said that to me. Do you want to work less and make more money? And I was like, yeah, I do. Does it not everybody? Like, yes, I do. And I was willing to work on the weekends. I mean, I wrote my first book on Saturday mornings. I would, and I was much younger then, so I went out more, which is hilarious now because I don't do that anymore. But I would get up super early on Saturdays, and that's when I wrote my book because I had a day job. I saw clients as a therapist all week. I was utterly exhausted, and I wrote a book on Saturdays. And that was the sacrifice I was willing to make to get to the life that I have now. Mm-hmm. And now the new vision is different. And now what am I willing to do now to have that life that's out there? Right. And I hope everybody knows this, but you are given a specific vision for your life specifically for you. Mm-hmm. I mean, I believe that's God. I mean, there's a saying that you can't see your whole life unfold because we would go crazy. You can't know everything that's going to come. And so it unfolds a little by little by little by little. But when you have that long-term vision, like this is just, neuroscience stuff. Like this is like geeky, nerdy, awesome stuff. Happy pocket full of money kinds of things like neuroplasticity and all that good stuff. Is that when we have that long-term vision, our life doesn't know any other way but to line up to that. Mm-hmm. And so people that don't have that long-term vision don't know what to do. But then there's also a lot of us intuitive types that only have that long-term vision, but they don't take any action. Right. And we have to do both.
And there's something you said about it, like coming as a vision or whatever. But the thing is, it's not like, while we're talking here, you're going to have the vision. You got to make the time for it and the space for it, or else you're never going to see the vision. You got to work through it to find the vision, and it may come from God or the universe, wherever, but you have to have space for it.
Do I not have the best clients? I mean, how smart are you? Like, all the people listening right now, like, come play with us, because look at who you get to hang out with. That was so brilliant, and you're so, so, so right that it does. You gotta slow down. You gotta be open. And I mean, that's a whole nother podcast episode, but we are in an epidemic of busy. We are in this epidemic of more and your phone and you're this and I'm running here and I'm doing this and I'm doing that. And when are you slowing down? And when are you taking time for yourself? And when do you take solo trips? And when do you just go for a walk in Greece by yourself when your kids are around? Like, when do you do that? So again, a whole nother conversation.
Can I just take this back to parents and teens for a second?
Please.
Okay. So we as parents, as a society, are teaching our kids this toxic way of living. We think we're teaching them the long vision, but we're not. Like, we're teaching them, you need to do everything right now. You need to have a completely full schedule so you can get into college. That's really a short-term, short-sighted way of parenting. We need to let them learn who they are and what they want to do 10, 20 years from now, instead of this whole thing of let's go, 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 so that you can get into this college. It's such a short-sighted way of parenting, and it's all from well-intentioned parents. Parents who love their kids, who want to do the best thing for their kids, but we are teaching them what we are doing, and it's horrible. Just the busyness and the short-sightedness.
Boom. And I think most parents listening would probably say, but they have to get into college to necessarily foresee their future. And you're saying that's totally not true.
No way. Yeah. They don't have to go to college, first of all. Maybe they don't go to college right away. Maybe they don't go to Stanford, which they only accept 5% anyway. Ooh. It's not about the college they go to. It's about them having a passion and getting excited about life. Yes. They may be a C student, and they're the most successful person in their school. Yeah. Looking back on my high school reunion, like the people who were super successful, they weren't all the A+ students.
No, they're the outliers.
Yeah,
they're the
ones,
creative, wonky kids. I mean, I wonder how many people today, very, very, very small few, I'm sure, it matters at all which school you went to.
No.
It just doesn't matter.
Yeah.
I say that all the time. Like, I have a master's degree and I had to have one in order to become a psychotherapist, but literally nobody has ever one time ever asked me what my educational background is or where I went to school. Nobody asks because no one cares.
Yeah.
They just want to know that you know what you're talking about. And so that is about passion. That is about being unapologetically who you are. That is understanding your personality type. That is understanding what you're good at, what you're not good at, following your passions and not trying to fit into some crazy box.
Right.
Yeah. Wow. Okay. All right, gorgeous. Talk to us in closing. Like, what, any last takeaways? Like, this was an amazing conversation. I loved where we went with it, but anything in closing you want to share with the listeners?
In closing, I think just going back to this hobby versus CEO and long-term thinking, anybody who, whether you're at the start of your business or you're 10 years in, just stop and take that time for the universe, for God to give you that vision, and think about what you're doing now and what's driving you nuts, where your anxiety is coming from, and maybe that gets pushed out. Like, think long-term instead of right now, and it just becomes a lot more relaxing way to do your business. And you have to believe in yourself, though. There's going to be naysayers like you're talking about. You got it from home, from your ex-spouse at that point, and maybe that's what gave you the push. Who knows? But I know I went out and I did a talk, and somebody wrote on my evaluation that I needed to go get a speech coach. I was like, I do like 20 talks a year. Interesting. Let me think about that. And then I read all the other, ones that were great.
Yeah.
But that one stuck out. So you're always going to have naysayers, whether it's your spouse, your kids, your colleagues, whoever it is. You got to find that long-term vision and stick with it and believe in yourself.
Yep, absolutely. How can people find you?
They can find me through my website, teenwiseseattle.com. I've got lots of stuff there for parents and teens. I've got lots of videos. I do private coaching. I do presentations. And I love to get emails with questions. And I will get back to you if anybody wants to contact me with a teen question. I love what I do. I'm passionate about it. I have 3 kids of my own, 15, 19, and 21. So we've survived most of it so far. We have gone through everything under the sun. I'm not a perfect parent. I'm just like everyone else out there parenting and having issues. And so I'm right there with you.
It is truly, I'm just looking at you right now as you're sharing, and I'm sitting right next to you in my home office. What a delight it is to work with you.
Well, thank you.
And it just, I truly don't mean this condescending at all. I'm very, very, very proud of you. I'm proud of you for sticking with it. I'm proud of you for just being as passionate as you are about what you're doing and choosing to stay committed. I mean, there have been multiple times where you're like, I want to quit, or this is such a mess, or I don't want to do this, or this is bullshit, or that's my language, and this is too hard, whatever, but you staying committed, it's just a beautiful thing to kind of watch you now sitting here and sharing on a podcast and all your wisdom and all the things that you've taken away from it. So I really do encourage, obviously, especially the parents, but really all across the country. I mean, people are listening to this worldwide. It's not just about Seattle, to reach out to Sherry. She's a gifted I would say teen speaker, but also to parents about really allowing your children, and I'm really passionate about this area too, about really just allowing your children to be who they are, so that you're raising happy children, happy and successful, not just the societal impression of what successful is, but they're miserable or have anxiety or depression or don't want to get out of bed or whatever.
Right. Well, when you do that, you can parent from a place of joy and happiness instead of fear and anxiety. What a switch.
What a switch. Yeah. So, thank you for being here.
So I'm glad to be here, and I'm glad to be part of this tribe, because you're right, I probably would have quit.
Yeah.
It wasn't seeing the long term.
And what a... I promise we're going to close, but what a powerful statement that just was, is that if you were not in this Front Seat Life group, if you were not in this Lady Boss group, you may have quit, and what a disservice you then do to the world.
Yeah.
That's my biggest thing about all of this, is that as entrepreneurs, and again, I only work with cool people that doing cool stuff, and so you're out doing this awesome stuff in the world. How many lives have you affected that you would not have affected with your gift, with your passion, if you would have given up? And that to me is what, keeps me going. So
yeah. And there have been times, Jessica, where I was like, I'm shutting down shop. Like, I literally contacted my clients and said, I'm really sorry, I'm ending my coaching. We're going to just wrap this thing up.
No, and not happening.
Then I did that for a while. I'm like, okay, what am I doing? Yep. I'm letting me and my ego get in the way. Mm-hmm. So, thanks for keeping me on track.
You're welcome. Thanks for being here. From the bottom of my heart, truly, thank you so much for listening. I know that you have a ton of options, and the fact that you are taking time to listen to the Front Seat Life podcast means absolutely everything to me. If you're interested in learning more about the Front Seat Life way of life in the community, there's a couple ways that you can do that. First is always starting with your personality assessment tool. It's available on my website at jessicabutts.com. It's totally free, and it will help you figure out your personality type so you'll have some idea of what we're talking about. Next is, if you're interested in hiring me for a keynote or some coaching or strategy days or the fabulous and amazing Front Seat Life community, you can find out all about all of that at jessicabutts.com. Thank you so much for listening, and I'll see you next time.